Hey Greg, it's September 8th, and I couldn't get to the baking video yet, and I already told you why, but I'll get to it later, hopefully in the next video. But, because of the delay, I decided to make this short interview video instead, where I asked some random friends of mine what their earliest memory was that they could remember. And before I show that one, I should read the quote first. I had a lot to pick from because for my academic decathlon team this year we're learning about World War I, and we have a lot of poetry to choose from. Well, I do for this, but I don't know. I always wanted to read more Thoreau, and this excerpt is a couple pages, so I'll just go for it. Still, we live meanly like ants. Though the fable tells us that we were long ago changed into men, like pygmies, we fight with cranes. It is error upon error and clout upon clout, and our best virtue has for its occasion a superfluous and evitable wretchedness. Our life is frittered away by detail. An honest man has hardly need to count more than his 10 fingers, or in extreme cases he may add his 10 toes and lump the rest. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I say, let your affairs be as 2 or 3, and not 100 or 1,000. Instead of 1,000,000, count half a dozen, and keep your accounts on your thumbnail. In the midst of this chopping sea of civilized life, such are the clouds and storms and quicksands and thousand and one items to be allowed for that a man has to live, if he would not founder and go to the bottom and not make his port at all by a dead reckoning, and he must be a great calculator indeed who succeeds. Simplify, simplify. Instead of 3 meals a day, if it be necessary, eat but 1. Instead of 100 dishes, 5, and reduce other things in proportion. Our life is like a German confederacy, made up of petty states, with its boundary forever fluctuating, so that even a German cannot tell you how it is bounded at any moment. The nation itself, with all its so-called internal improvements, which, by the way, are all sorry, lost my place. Are all external and superficial, is just such an unwieldy and overgrown establishment, cluttered with furniture and tripped up by its own traps, ruined by luxury and heedless expense, by want of calculation and a worthy aim, as 1,000,000 households in the land. And the only cure for it, as for them, is in a rigid economy, a stern and more than Spartan simplicity of life and elevation of purpose. It lives too fast. Men think that it is essential that the nation have commerce and export ice and talk through a telegraph and ride 30 miles an hour without a doubt, whether they do or not. But whether we should live like baboons or like men is a little uncertain. If we do not get out sleepers and forge rails and devote days and nights to the work, but go tinkering upon our lives and to improve them, who will build railroads? And if railroads are not built, how shall we get to heaven in season? But if we stay at home and mind our own business, who will want railroads? We do not ride on the railroad, it rides upon us. Did you ever think that those sleepers are that underlie the railroad? Each one is a man, an Irishman or a Yankee man. The rails are laid on them, and they are covered with sand, and the cars run smoothly over them. They are sound sleepers, I assure you, and every few years a new lot is laid down and run over, so that if some have the pleasure of riding on a rail, others have the misfortune to be ridden upon. And when they run over a man that is walking in his sleep, a supernumerary sleeper, in the wrong position, and wake him up, they suddenly stop the cars and make a hue and cry about it, as if this were an exception. I am glad to know that it takes a gang of men for every 5 miles to keep the sleepers down, and level in their beds as it is, for this is a sign that they may sometimes get up again. I would keep going, but I guess I should keep the video under 10 minutes, because YouTube's limits, and the rest of the video is about 7 minutes long. I'll probably read the rest of this one next time, because I love I love Henry David Thoreau more than several writers. So this is going to be the interview thing, and here it is.
What's the earliest memory you can recall?
My earliest memory is when my mom took me to Adventureland. It was an amusement park when I was like 4 years old.
Do you remember like anything that happened? Like any little like...
My mom took me on a roller coaster and I was really embarrassed because we couldn't fit in the seatbelt. So I remember she sat down and I sat on her lap and we rode the roller coaster.
Do you know how old you were?
I was 4.
Dang. Thank you. What's the earliest memory you can recall?
My earliest memory is when I was in first grade. I had a crush on this guy named Jacob Tobin. And he didn't like me, obviously, and I had glasses at the time, and he called me Four Eyes. And I was very upset about that, but the ironic thing is that he had braces, so I should have called him Braceface and gone back at him, but I didn't. So yeah, that's my earliest memory.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Go.
Okay, so my earliest memory was when I was a baby and I was like 10 months and I was staring at myself crying. I was on my mom's bed and there was a giant mirror in front of me and I was wearing a little pink dress, just staring at baby me crying.
How old are you? About?
Like 10 months. I remember looking at myself as a little baby and then I saw a picture of it and my mom was like, well, not a picture of it, but like a picture of me that day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like 10 months, 11 months. But I'm pretty sure that was the oldest memory.
Okay, yeah.
My oldest memory was when I was 3 years old and I watched Elmo and I used to dance along with when I saw it.
How would you dance?
Good.
That was a dance?
I used to sit down to do this.
Okay. Thank you, Mariah. Out of here. Okay. I forgot the question. You tell me the question. What was the question?
What's your earliest memory?
Yeah, there you go. Answer that one.
My earliest memory would have to be when
Would have to be. What do you mean would have to be?
Nick, think hard. Why are you analyzing his grammar?
Yeah.
Because it's. I mean, I'm a. Well, he's thinking. There we go.
When I was about 3.5 years old.
Yay, 3. How high?
Like down here, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I was quite a short
Yeah.
kid. And I went to the hospital to visit my newborn sister.
Can you describe it? Like what happened? What you saw?
Basically, all I really remember is like walking down the hallway heading toward her room.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, what is the earliest memory that you can recall?
When I was 3, and I was in the car, and my friend asked me how old I was, and I kept on saying free, and my mom would yell at me and say 3, that's how you say it. And I kept on saying free, so I just got yelled at. So come back.
Describe the experience.
It was pretty crazy. Like, I was all bloody, and I saw my mom, and that's pretty much all.
You saw your mother.
Why were you all bloody?
So I was born!
Oh, how do you remember that?
Okay. Is that?
I have a green finger.
Is that?
Wait, are you recording it?
Yeah, I was. The whole time.
That's not why we're doing stuff.
You can have one more. You
What
can.
element?
No, one more go.
I have a
Alright.
Hobo song.
Earliest memory.
About races. That's good.
Probably having a surgery, having x-rays,
You know, yeah, I'm just gonna go with it. What's the earliest memory you can remember?
I went to Legoland.
No, earliest childhood ever, first ever. That's not really an experience. That's just what you did. Like an actual memory, you know? Like
Went to Legoland, and I went on
Good helicopters.
I was like 2.
No. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. What is the earliest memory you can recall?
Seeing my cousin at the farm.
Seeing?
Seeing my cousin at the farm.
Oh, seeing. Okay. That's. You guys are really vague.
Well, what do you want?
Okay, fine. I was there in a tractor and fell on top of my head. That's what it was.
A tractor.
Yeah, piece of it.
I was with my mom. I was gonna go somewhere. I was sitting on like an ottoman, sitting there waiting for her, like amazing phone. and then she was like, I gotta get something, and then I kept on saying the word fuck over and over again.
How old are you?
I was like 4 almost.
Keep
And I
going.
was like, gotta get some
sad because this is
And
true.
then, and that was the end of my memory.
Okay.
Okay, I remember when I was, I think between 4 and 5, my little brother poured really hot coffee on himself, and that's why he's tan.